Oh no, things are getting undone again. Wait, that's not for this channel. So there's a whole bunch of controversy right now about whether OpenGate is needed in cameras, whether you as a content creator should pick up a camera because it's got OpenGate, or whether everyone should be upset with Sony because they keep holding out from putting OpenGate into their mirrorless cameras. There's so much drama here, but I of course need to give my 2 cents. So that's what this video is about. Do you need OpenGate? What's it like to use OpenGate? Reasons you should get cameras like Lumix cameras that have OpenGate, and how that will benefit you in general. So first off, let's start off with, why is OpenGate even a thing? What is it and how does it benefit you? Majority of mirrorless cameras from like all the brands, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Lumix, all have a 3x2 sensor. This is what you shoot with when you're doing stills photography. You have the full 3x2 aspect ratio, so you have the full height of the sensor to use for your photos. Now, it would kind of make sense to be able to do the same thing with video. You have more height, therefore you have more real estate to play around with in your shots. Lumix does this. You can shoot in OpenGate up to 6K. If you get the S1R Mark II, you can do it up to 8K, which is crazy. And not that I need 8K, but that's pretty freaking cool. You can even get $1,000 cameras like the Lumix S9. I think you can get them used for $1,000 now anyway. That shoots 6K OpenGate. Backpedaling a little bit, Canon does OpenGate now, Nikon does OpenGate now. So Sony, and Fujifilm do OpenGate as well. So Sony are literally the last in the queue to put OpenGate into their cameras. I have seen that from another YouTuber, I'll put his name here, that you can get OpenGate with the Sony Venice, but you have to pay $400 a month or $4,000 to own it outright, to pay for the license to use OpenGate in the camera that you've bought. Now, this is a tens of thousands of dollars, like very expensive high-end cinema camera. It's not something that you or I are probably going to buy anytime soon. But that mentality behind that is crazy. But let's go back to what OpenGate is and everything and how it's useful. So right now I'm filming in OpenGate, and this has allowed me to reframe for Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, whilst also outputting a video for my YouTube channel as a widescreen, like normal 16:9 video. This means I don't have to film things twice. It's extremely convenient as a content creator to be able to just film things once, but be able to use it across multiple platforms. Gone are the days where you had to film things landscape and then rotate your camera using whatever kind of rig or tripod or whatever you had, and then film everything again, but in portrait, just so you could post it on IG, TikTok, and everything. This is so much easier. And once you start doing it this way, honestly, it's hard to go back. The other thing about OpenGate is that anamorphic lenses work way better when you shoot OpenGate. They were actually made for it. Now, there are some anamorphic lenses that will work well with a 16:9 sensor. Those are relatively new and they are, not that many, they're far and few between. But if you do shoot on a 16:9 sensor with an anamorphic lens, you get an extremely wide shot. And the reality is you then have to cut off the sides to get a 2.35:1 aspect ratio, which is like the correct widescreen image that we are all used to from like the cinemas and everything. That's kind of the downside, is that if you're using a 16:9 sensor, you are losing so much resolution and information of your shot because you have to crop in to get the right aspect ratio. If you shoot OpenGate, you don't. You maybe crop a little bit, if any, but I don't think you actually need to. I'm going to be testing out some anamorphic lenses soon, so this is all stuff that I have seen mainly from Cam Mackey, if I'm honest, using anamorphic lenses on YouTube and stuff. But I have used anamorphics in the past. I used them, funnily enough, on my A7S II. This was a long time ago, and the image I got was extremely wide. Touching on the deliverables aspect one more time, because this actually goes beyond social media. Let's say you're doing a professional client shoot, and perhaps the deliverables are going to go onto live billboards, not just social media, websites, YouTube, whatever, but actual digital billboards across a mall, for example, or across a city. These billboards will likely vary drastically. They could be widescreen, they could be a normal 16:9, they could be a square, they could be portrait as well. And this was a great example pointed out again by Cam Mackey. He showed off his work that he had to shoot on a 16:9 sensor because he wanted to use the Ronin 4D. It was very interesting because he made the point about how he had to keep telling his camera operator to get a little bit further back from the subject. And it did actually negatively impact the shots because the depth of field and the bokeh were not how they wanted it exactly, because they had to keep shifting further and further away from the subject. It changed up the depth of field. It's very technical, but it was very interesting because it's actually true. And that is a negative point about just backing it up, which, well, I guess I kind of jumped ahead here because I was then going to say, what about backing it up? That's one of the downsides, is if you keep backing it up, you do lose some of that subject to background separation because you're just going further and further away from your subject to make sure there's enough height in the shot for social media reframing. Now, another reason OpenGate is extremely useful is, let's say you're actually in a very small space. Some people may have their tripods up to the wall and they cannot move it any further. Now, I've just moved in to this new place and I'm still setting up things, hence, you know, things aren't the cleanest behind me, and I'm not showing you what is to my left or your right. It's a mess. It's just a bunch of stuff on the floor because we still need to get some furniture. But anyway, but in the past, I used to film just like in my living room / kitchen area, and I would fit my lights and my tripod where I could, and often it was just, you know, facing the wall or whatever. But if I ever wanted a different kind of shot, things were very tight for me creating content. And having made the switch to Lumix and being able to use OpenGate, it makes it so much easier if I want to reframe things for portrait video because I get the extra height. So yes, you're right. You can just move your camera back. But the reality is not every situation will actually allow for that. And with the visual characteristics changing of your shot because you're moving further away from the subject, it can actually cause real problems for your shoots. Are they huge problems? Arguably, maybe not, but if it's up to your creative choice of how you wanted a video, a film, a commercial project to look, and it has to look different because you're not shooting OpenGate, it's just another reason to shoot OpenGate, if I'm honest. Okay, so what about the people who say, yeah, but you don't need OpenGate? I'll be honest here, right? I don't think everybody needs OpenGate, but having used it myself, it's kind of that thing of once you start using it, it's very hard to not use it because it adds that level of convenience for you, especially for someone who is striving to become a full-time content creator. And that means I have to create short-form content, portrait content as well. Because landscape content for YouTube, whilst that is my main focus, the short form stuff, that helps you grow a lot. So if you want to do both, well, OpenGate is honestly, I think, the way to go. Sure, you can keep backing up your camera and keep backing up your camera and keep backing up your camera. But how much further are you gonna push it back to the point where you're like, oh, my landscape shot is kind of ruined or not how I want it to look here? Or do you even have the space to back up your camera in the first place? I don't think everybody needs it, but I think once you try it, you will see why everybody is really pushing for Sony to just give them OpenGate, especially when all the other camera brands have done it already. It's kind of crazy that now they are becoming the joke brand after having literally led like the mirrorless camera revolution. And like, I'm not trying to bash Sony here. I bought my A7S II at, you know, when it came out or whatever, and I love that camera, used and abused, and I've kept that thing for years. I sold it a few years ago, like begrudgingly, but it bought me my S5 Mark II. So it literally served its purpose to me until the very end. And I loved that camera. But it is strange how after so many years now, especially of doing so well with the FX3 and the A7S III when those came out, they've kind of slowed down a bit and they're not giving people what they want. Something I love about Lumix is that they do listen to their creators and they iterate very quickly to act on the things that people are asking for. We have false color in the S1 Mark II and S1R Mark II. We have OpenGate 6K 3:2 aspect ratios. We have tons of resolutions. We have 4K 120. We have the great autofocus now, the AI autofocus as well. We have all these features. Even, you know, take away the OpenGate aspect, the Lumix cameras are still freaking amazing. ProRes RAW, and it's all internal now. It's not just over HDMI anymore. It's insane what these cameras can do, and they cost less than like an FX3. And I think that's the other problem, is Sony is still pricing their cameras so high, but they are not offering what cameras from other brands that cost the same or even a little bit less offer. I don't know. I think if you're just like trying to shoot some stills of like, I don't know, your son's football game, or shoot some photos of your friend's wedding. Sure, the a7 IV, solid camera, and it can do a lot. Like, I'm not trying to totally knock it, but I almost didn't make this video because I don't really care about the a7 IV. It doesn't interest me. There's nothing new and spectacular about it like the past Sony cameras. And I respect we are at a point where camera innovation has really tailed off and slowed down because there isn't too much more innovation to do. I mean, beyond getting the dynamic range even higher to the point it's like a RED camera where it has a similar dynamic range to what our eyes can see, which, you know, will that ever be possible? Or giving us more frame rates or higher resolutions. And it does get to a point where, what's the point? Like, past 8K, do we need 12K? Do we even need 8K? I know 4K for me is enough. And this image here, even though I can do 6K open gate, I'm actually using Lumix's MP4 Lite, which is a 3.8K open gate. So I'm not even technically shooting full 4K, even though this video will definitely be 4K. But of course, I wanted to chime in on the drama a little bit and just give my 2 cents to give you guys something to think about on, you know, is it worth staying with Sony now that they're taking so long to innovate and give people, their users, features that they're asking for? Or, you know, if you haven't tried OpenGate yourself, honestly, just rent a Lumix S5 Mark II for like a weekend, even just one day. Try out the features that everyone is talking about, or actually rent out the S1 Mark II, because then you can have false color and the 4K 120 and blah, 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 and the amazing IBIS, by the way. And really see what is on the other side of the fence, because there's a reason a lot of people are switching. There's a reason that I wholeheartedly dove into Lumix cameras when I did make the switch from, like, you know, manual cinema cameras and my A7S II when I changed over to focusing on social media. These cameras rock, and, you know, OpenGate, it's a big part of that. It's not the only reason, but it is a very cool feature to have. Hopefully Sony do add it soon. It would be cool to see like the FX3 Mark II rocking OpenGate, shooting 6K, kind of playing catch up. But for now, well, it seems like they're a bit of a potato. I wanted to add one more thing in here real quick. Having actually sat down and watched Gerald's video, which I think is very important for anybody making this kind of video, because this video was never meant to be like a jab at Gerald. I actually personally enjoy his videos quite a lot. They're one of the first places I go to if I want to know something very specific and technical about a camera release or a light or a lens. But his points were, I think, kind of valid, but I see both sides, right? Do you need OpenGate? Generally, no. If you're someone who uses anamorphics, then yeah, go for a Lumix camera. Like, genuinely, we have better anamorphic, like we have built-in D-squeeze in the camera. We have anamorphic IBIS, which no other brand has. So yeah, it makes more sense. And plus then we have the OpenGate as well. Now, Gerald mentions how, you know, you can back up the camera and you'll get the same sort of height, you know, difference. And I think Cam Mackey's point does make sense. Gerald's point is not wrong either though, but you know, there can be some look differences, whatever. I think the general content creator, you and me, right? Where I see the benefit with OpenGate is that it lets me just shoot one thing one way and I can get a portrait and horizontal video very, very quickly. Yes, you could just crop the sides off your video and get a 9:16 video, but if you really do care about how things look, having that bit of extra resolution and height because you're using the full height of the sensor, I think can make a difference. I think it does at least make your life a little bit easier, regardless of the fact that we're going to be watching it on our phones and everything. If you just care about the quality, then OpenGate is fantastic. And also the convenience. Yes, it doesn't take much to push a camera back, I respect that, but there's no harm in having it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't buy a camera just because it doesn't have OpenGate. No, if it has everything else you want from that camera, sure. But having used OpenGate, like I said, I do not want to go back. I would not go back having used it myself. So, like I said, try out a Lumix camera, try out OpenGate, and have some fun with it.